What's going on, everybody? My name is Denzel Williams and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Apple TV 4K and if it's still worth a good buy in 2023. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've got a Roku, I've got a Firestick, I've got apps built into my TV. Why in the world would I even need an Apple TV? Don't worry about it, I got you. By the end of this, you'll be able to make a better decision on if you really want the Apple TV, if you think it's beneficial to you, or if you think it's another gimmick. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. I know that it has a pretty good premium on it in comparison to those other devices that I talked about earlier. So the base model starts at about $130. So it is one of those items where it's like, do I really want this? Is it worth it? But as I started to use it more and more, it became one of those things where I was like, yeah, I see exactly why they actually made it the price they did. Unboxing it, one thing I noticed was how sleek of a design it is. As you know, with Apple, they're pretty much one of the leaders as far as making like sleek designs. Very simple, but it's one of those where it's like, Apple, I see what you did here. But another thing that I noticed in unboxing it was that it didn't come with an HDMI cord. And I was like, Apple, like, why we don't have an HDMI cord? Like, come on. But the more and more I thought about it, I was just like, well, I probably have a HDMI cord laying around the house somewhere, but in the event I don't, HDMI cords are not that expensive, so I could probably pick it up from somewhere else. So go figure. So what comes in the box is the Apple TV itself, the remote, and the power cord. Now, looking at the actual device itself, it's a sleek design. It's just a little black box, which I thought was a little bit different from what Apple whole aesthetic is, so to speak, but it still has that same design of like, oh, it's kind of like a cool black box to just sit up there on your counter or underneath your entertainment system. But either or, the remote was one of those things where it was pretty comfortable in hand. Like I said, for me, this is, like I said, my first Apple TV, but it was one of those items where the remote seemed to be very responsive, and that's what I liked. Also, on the side of the remote, it has the Siri function on it, so you're able to talk into it and give the Apple TV commands as you would a regular Apple device. Now, also with the remote, I noticed that it isn't a lightning port to charge it, it's a USB-C. So I'm believing that's the wave, as we all know that Apple is following to start using more USB-C, and that's also a cord that doesn't come in the box. So you will have to have a USB-C cord available to be able to charge the remote. Or another benefit is that you can use your phone. As with anything in the Apple ecosystem, you have the ability to use your phone. Now, looking at the ports on the back of the Apple TV itself, you have the HDMI port, the power port itself, and if you have Ethernet, there's an Ethernet port on the back of it. So there is an Apple TV option where you can get a little bit more. You have to pay a little bit more, of course, but you can get the Ethernet on the back of it. Now, with actual features of the Apple TV, you have HDMI 2.1, 4K Dolby Vision as well, and also Dolby Atmos. And I could definitely tell the difference when plugging this up to my TV using it instead of the stock apps that come on my TV. I have a Samsung TV, which has the Samsung dashboard where you can have all your apps from Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and all the rest of those. There was a significant difference when comparing it to my soundbar. I can hear the difference from it, and I'm assuming that it's due to the Dolby Atmos that's within the device itself. And I thought that was a pretty cool feature because it did enhance the listening of what I was watching. So I was just like, okay, it's a nice feature, Apple. Like, I really appreciate what you did here, and kind of gave me a little bit better experience than what I was thinking about. So again, one of those things where you could really dive into it if you start using it for your entertainment system. As I've already discussed earlier, that you do have the Wi-Fi option, which is built into the base model, but for about 20 to 30 bucks more, you can get the Ethernet version, which basically you can plug it into a hard line and being able to use it. So depending on your speeds of your house, which I don't think you need some outrageous Wi-Fi, I don't know. You don't need an outrageous Wi-Fi setup to run this. You can use a standard Wi-Fi system and it will work perfectly fine. I experience zero lag and I don't have super high speeds when it comes to my Wi-Fi setup. The various smart home ecosystem. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely, I think it's something you want to look into. You probably won't be able to get the actual just Wi-Fi only version, but most, I believe, probably won't be using this for that function. So the Wi-Fi will be, the base model for the Wi-Fi version will probably be good to go for you. Another thing was the fact of ease of use. Now, when it comes to certain products, setup times and startup times can be a bit like drawn out, it can be long, but with the Apple TV itself, it was very smooth to set up. Like as soon as you pop it out of the box, plug it in, start it up, it starts to sync to the remote instantly. And from actual entering in my information, which all of it can be done from your phone, from there, it was about 25, 30 seconds, to be honest, if that. And I'm giving it a little bit of grace period, but still, it was relatively quick as far as setting up and actually getting to use the device for what it is. Now, overall, just the actual experience itself, moving from app to app, place to place on the actual device was one of those things where I was like, this is completely different from using the standard apps that are on my TV, because the snappiness of it was crazy effective. Being able to go from place to place on the apps, being able to use it similarly like you would like an iPad or an iPhone, where you can actually double tap the home button and being able to swipe up and get rid of various applications was something that I wasn't really expecting. And I think being able to go from one app to the next app while also having it run in the background is due to the chip that's in the Apple TV itself. So the Apple TV has an A15 Bionic Chip, and if you're used to using Apple products and more of the more, current Apple products with MacBooks and as well as the iPhone 14, it's the same chip that they use in those. So that should already put you in the mindset of like, they weren't really playing around when it came to putting some of the best tech within this small device. And other competitors just don't have that type of option when it comes to it. So with that A15 Bionic Chip, you can really see how seamless it is going from app to app and being able to do multiple things at the same time, and streaming content is a breeze. When using other streaming devices, one thing I noticed was, again, like I said, they tend to lag a lot. So for example, my Firestick, it's a wee bit old, so it's about a couple years old, but at the same time, it starts to wear down relatively quickly when you're doing multiple things. So going from app to app on a Firestick, for example, is just not as smooth as it would be on using the Apple TV. And like I said, I think that's one of the main reasons why I was like, the Apple TV is definitely here to stay, at least for me, because using it was very simple. And which, like I said, I think that's what Apple's whole mantra is simplicity at its best, but also providing you with some of the best performance-wise within their products to be able to make that experience a whole lot better for you. And for first-time users who, like myself, I've never had an Apple TV, so it was one of those things where I could continue to keep using this over and over and over again, and I believe that it'll be future-proof for at least some years to come. Now, another feature that I felt like Apple TV really knocked it out the park with was the fact that you can calibrate the Apple TV itself using your phone. Now, it doesn't calibrate your TV, it calibrates the Apple TV, so kind of separate the two. But I thought it was a cool function that Apple did to be able to provide you with some of the best quality while being able to use, again, the ecosystem around you that you use. So with that, you also have the ability to use Apple Fitness. If you've already purchased and using a subscription with Apple Fitness, you can use Apple Fitness on the Apple TV. That pairs well with your Apple Watch also. So again, they're pretty much integrating everything that you do Apple-based. If you have the iPad, you have an iPhone, if you have an Apple Watch, it just makes things a whole lot better. I think for me, it's one of those things where I looked at it and I was just like, yeah, this is an item that I think that you could purchase. And again, if you are an Android user, I don't really think that you get the full function out of it, because I think with the ability to be able to use your iPhone as a keyboard to use it, whether it's typing in passwords, using saved passwords, using it for calibration purposes, using your iPhone as a remote, I think you get more bang for your buck when you actually are tied into the Apple ecosystem. Now again, I'm not saying if you have an Android, stay away from it, but what I'm saying is, for those who are already part of the Apple ecosystem, it makes things a whole lot easier. And I think that you can get a lot more value from that if you are already in it. The fact that you're able to use your AirPods to pair up to the Apple TV. I thought that was something that Apple did a really nice job on, being able to seamlessly integrate AirPods and other Apple products, such as like their headphones, into the Apple TV. And the process itself was pretty simple, because once you put your actual AirPods in, the Apple TV recognizes it and you select it with the click of a button. From there, you instantly started hearing whatever you're playing on TV. So I think the use case for it could be if someone's sleeping in the room or napping in the room, whatever the case may be. You don't have to necessarily disturb them by watching a loud movie or something like that. You can always have this in your ear, and also it pairs up to other Bluetooth headsets as well too. So again, you kind of have your pick of the litter when it comes to that. But for me, using my AirPods, very smooth transition. And as far as sound, when you're actually using the device, it sounds really good. I wouldn't say it's probably the best surround sound experience. I still think you get more of a benefit if you're using it with your integrated soundbar system or home theater system, whichever one you choose. But I think, again, the touch of being able to use that in comparison to other devices when you really don't have that option, I think it's a cool feature to have on Apple TV. So I definitely recommend trying it out. Another cool feature of having the Apple ecosystem and using it with the Apple TV is the fact that you can use AirPlay. So you can pair up your iPad, your MacBook, and as well as your iPhone to it. And it's very much so a smooth process from there as well too. So you do have that built-in function as you would any other device that has AirPlay. But I think for me, it was something that, like I said, it was pretty standard, so it didn't really blow my mind. But I think that if someone is using it to show pictures on their phone or whatever the case may be, you can use it that way. Or if you just needed to use it as a secondary monitor, it would be cool too. Now, me being the big kid that I am, everybody loves to play video games, and Apple Arcade provides you with a list of various games made by Apple that are specifically designed for the Apple TV, as well as a little bit more of high intensity graphics. So these games were pretty interesting as far as what you could play and the options that they have. And also, when you first get it, you get 3 months free of Apple Arcade if you don't already have it. So it's one of those things where you have at least some time to see if this is something that you want, or it could be just something to pass the time with. Going back to using Bluetooth devices, you can pair a PlayStation controller or Xbox controller to the Apple TV via Bluetooth, and you're able to play Apple Arcade games. I was able to download a few games, and I saw that they were pretty smooth in comparison to playing these same games even on, you know, an actual console itself. You're gonna get a bigger bang for your buck when you're using a console, but at the same time, for this small device to be able to handle some of those high intensity graphics was amazing to see. So definitely something I would recommend you checking out. And also with that, you get 3 months when you first purchase an Apple TV. So you can use that to kind of play around in the Apple Arcade to see if there are a few games that you like. Or like I said, if it's for kids or something like that, if you want to put it in their room, you can kind of have control over exactly what they want to do, and you can download some games for them to play. Now, as far as pricing options, the base Wi-Fi only model starts at $129 and you get 64 gigs of internal storage. And for 20 bucks more, you get the 128 gig option, and it also comes with the Ethernet port as well. So depending on what you want to do, I think that, you know, either option will be great for you. But if you're one of those people who want to download a lot more games from the Apple Arcade, definitely I'll probably maybe suggest getting the 128 version, and also again for that added thread support. But if you're just someone who's using this for your streaming device and an occasional Apple Arcade game from time to time, the 64 gig option will work for you as well too. Because again, that's more than enough space to handle a lot of those apps that you may use. But again, I want to stress that this was a product that I think kind of superseded my expectations, because I didn't really think that it was going to be something that I ended up keeping. I thought it was going to be something that I was like, I don't know if I really like this. I don't know if it's gonna be worth the time or the money, because $129 is pretty steep for a streaming device when you have a competitor that's like 40 bucks. Again, a Firestick is like $40. So, but for me, I definitely think this is one of those items that you can probably pick up and you will really enjoy using it. So bottom line, is the Apple TV worth it in 2023? To answer that question, I definitely think it is. Just due to the fact that the performance-wise of it, it performs a whole lot better than any of its competitors. Again, you do have cheaper options, you do have built-in apps on your TV, but I think for the most part, you get a lot more out of this particular device than you would any of those products. The seamlessness to the Apple ecosystem, the integration from the Apple TV itself to the various apps, the use of the Apple TV app itself. I think the list can go on, but I think for someone who's looking for a streaming device that is, again, slightly over the budget of what most households may have, definitely consider purchasing the Apple TV, because I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I don't think it's something that will outdate itself. Talking to other Apple TV users, they pretty much held on to the Apple TV for a long time. Actually ran into another Apple TV user when purchasing this one from the store, and they said, like, you know, the one that they had before is about 4 years old, and they just wanted to experience the new features and also take this and put it into their home entertainment system and kind of just revolve it around the Apple TV. So I think for someone who's already had one and it's, you know, about 4 years old, your previous one was about a few years old, definitely look into the upgrade. For somebody like myself who's new to the Apple TV and new to using a lot more powerful streaming device, I definitely recommend it. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of the Apple TV and if it's right for you. I definitely think it's one of those items that you can definitely benefit from. So again, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and drop me a comment if you just want to talk. And if you have any other questions about the Apple TV, more than happy to help out that I didn't cover here. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And until next time, much love, peace.